What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Booster here, thanks for stopping by. Today's video we're going to be talking about gear sets and how they've changed from the start of the game until 2025. Now if you guys have just started Raid, obviously some of this advice might not be applicable to you since you guys will be scraping the bottom of the barrel for any piece of gear you guys can possibly get to put on your champions in the beginning. I'm going to tell you guys as you guys progress through the game what you guys can expect in terms of what gear to keep and what gear you will eventually phase out of. But first, as always, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys leave me a like, a comment, and make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for future content. With that all being said, let's get started here. So the first set I have in mind here, I'm going to check out my account here. Obviously, my account is very endgame. And like I said, if you guys are just starting off the game, you guys are going to be keeping any type of gear. Even as you progress through the game, a lot of these gear pieces you get from various areas will be useful for you for a long time. Obviously, when you guys watch videos, you guys see optimized builds, crazy stats, and all that stuff. And when you guys are progressing, none of that really matters because your gear is just not on that level yet. It does not match years and years of grinding this game. So we have to see what will work for your account. Obviously, you take any of this advice with a grain of salt, and it's always going to be catered to your own account. So make sure you guys double check your own account before taking in consideration any of this advice. First things first, I want to talk about some sets here. Speed set. So the speed set is still the, premier two-piece bonus speed set. You get 12 speed here. Very powerful set. It carries on all until the late game, mainly because it is a farmable set in high quantities even when you're in the super late game. And speed is still king. Ever since the game first started, speed has been king. There was a small little break for the whole speed meta in the arena and all that when reaction came in and stone skin came in, but speed is back. So having speed gear will obviously be used on your account for a long time. That's not to mention that speed has been power crept in a couple of ways here. So for example, speed can be basically straight upgraded by divine speed, so you get plus 12 speed and then 15% self shield. So this is a better upgraded speed set that you can farm from classic arena. Now you can't really get too much of these pieces. That's why it's really hardly mentioned when compared to the speed set. Now speed set has also been power crept recently by the new upgraded impulse set, which you get from live arena. Now you can get this one way more frequently than the classic divine speed set. So the impulse set is going to be the premier speed set when people start getting more and more of these two-piece pieces of impulse. It's a really nice bonus here. You get 12% chance to reduce a random skill cooldown by 1 turn. That's really huge, and a direct upgrade off of the regular speed set. But however, like I said, guys, years and years of farming speed set is going to be very hard to replace. So the speed set currently is still a keep for your account, but eventually it will be phased out by better sets such as the impulse set. So we can use my account as a real world example of what champions actually use speed sets on my account. So quickly going over some of the champions that I actually use basically full time. You can kind of see here like my Sifi is my speed champion. She doesn't use any speed sets. You can kind of go down my roster in terms of champions that I actually use and see which champions actually have a speed set. So far, no champions are holding on to speed sets in their gears. I believe, there you go. So Furion is the first champion. He is a speed booster for me and he does have a speed set. Now, like I said, guys, I've been playing this game for many years. And right now we're using triple speed rolls on the bottom pieces. The bottom pieces are the hardest pieces to get, obviously, for great rolls. And these ones I still use. But you can kind of see that over the long term, speed set is going to get replaced, whether it's by impulse set or just by other sets. All right, guys, let's move on to the next set that kind of got power crept pretty hard, and it's not really something that you really would keep that much of nowadays as you progress into the end game. Obviously, like I said, if you're progressing through the mid game, this set is going to be pretty good, and I'm going to be talking about the crit damage set. So crit damage is a very simple set. It's a two-piece set for 20% crit damage. Now the crit damage set, you can farm it, a lot of it from Fire Knight, and there's been years and years of farming the crit damage set. It's been straight power crept by the Zeal set. Again, it's going to be a set that you can farm from Live Arena. You get the 20% crit damage here, plus you get additional 3% for every 25 HP this champion has. Now that's going to equate to quite a bit of extra damage just from a 2-piece set, and quite a bit better than the crit damage set. Crit damage set is also power crept by Killstroke. So Killstroke gives you an additional 5% speed for the same 2-piece bonus, and you still get the 20% crit damage. Now, Killstroke is, you get it from the clan shops. You're not going to get massive amounts of it, but you're generally going to get pretty decent quality of it depending on the level of your clan. So you could theoretically get pretty good amount of high quality pieces in very short amount of time. And since it doesn't cost you energy, it's a decent expenditure, especially if you're still progressing through the game, which, for example, if you're still using crit damage gear, the Killstroke would be a good upgrade. If you're doing Live Arena, then expect those Zeal sets to start coming in and start boosting up your builds quite a bit. Personally, I don't really use the crit damage set anymore in many of my builds. You can kind of see here with the equipped, there is not many champions that I have equipped with the crit damage set. I'm going to move my head here real quick. And you can kind of see here, this is a pretty exceptional piece, right? We got 20 crit rate, so that's second highest for a double roll. We have a max roll on speed. So this is a pretty good epic helm, and I have it on my shawled for a little bit. I have, 20% extra crit damage on my Newt here. You can kind of see here on his helm as well. You see a couple broken pieces. For example, I have this piece on my Cold Heart, which is not a, serious champion on my account. None of the weapons are being used. Like for an account as deep as my roster, I'm not using many pieces at all. You can kind of see here, I have one piece on Rat, I have one piece on, one set on Newt. That's about it. So for my entire account, I'm not really using this set quite often. All right, so quickly moving on here, here's another set from the Dragon Dungeon. So the accuracy set, you get 2-piece set here with 40 accuracy. It has always been power crept by the perception set, which you get by farming materials in faction wars and then crafting these pieces. The perception set has lasted a long time, to be honest, but now the perception set has been definitely power crept here by both the Feral set and the Pinpoint set. Now both these sets are really strong. The Feral and the Pinpoint, going from 1 to 9 pieces, offer more flexibility than the perception set, because a single piece of, for example, a Feral, you get an extra 40 accuracy already, whereas the perception set, you need 2 pieces. And the Feral set, a 2-piece bonus for the Feral matches the perception, but you get the flexibility of the 1-piece, the 3-piece, up to the 9-piece. And then similarly with the Pinpoint set, you also get the bonus from the 1-piece, not as high accuracy, but on the 2-piece, you get more speed. So both of these sets being more flexible than the perception set makes them much more flexible and easy, just basically easier to squeeze into builds. Not to mention that the 4-piece and 9-piece bonuses for them are very powerful. So we see kind of perception gear not being used as much. To be honest, on my roster, I don't really use too many of them on any of the champions that I widely use. We see Newt here using a triple speed weapon, and then we have another Newt here using a triple crit damage weapon. The other champions are not seriously used, so they're probably just having some of these pieces to make some builds work. I'm just looking through a bunch of the champions to see who actually uses perception that I use actually full time. I would maybe expect maybe a Boot. So we got Newt here again, so he's probably just rocking that one set of perception. And we got a couple Hydra champions here, like Ugo, for example, a couple Faction Wars champions. We have Geomancer here working it as well. I mean, we got some pretty decent perception gear. That's the best thing about perception, is that you can just farm tons of it. And, it doesn't cost you energy, of course. And you can target the crafts. So a lot of times you get some pretty good quality ones. But for my endgame account, the perception gear is starting to phase out. But to be honest, for any account throughout their progression, you're going to be sticking with the perception gear set for a long time. So generally, you will be keeping perception gear for a long time until you get enough Pinpoint and Feral sets to basically phase out perception gear. Although they're not direct phase out, sets because they offer different type of benefits. Obviously, Feral, you go for 9-piece for big damage boost, and then Pinpoint, you use it more often for the 4-piece for some PvP builds. But Perception, definitely a set that has fallen off, at least for my account in the end game. It's going to be a great set, like I said, for a lot of progressing accounts, but something to look out for as you progress through the game. Let's hop over to the immunity set. Now, this is a set that's basically been dead ever since Stone Skin has been entered into the meta, or actually into the game. Stone Skin offers basically a better immunity while offering you damage immunity as well. So immunity set has definitely been power crept. It already was power crept from one of the untouchable sets farmed from the Doom Tower bosses, but now the immunity obviously completely obliterated by the Stone Skin set, and you know, it hasn't really made a comeback at all. The only rare case where you use immunity is if you were trying to counter bombs. Yes, bomb meta is in right now, but now there's a direct direct power creep to immunity, and that's going to be the Feral set. The 4-piece Feral set lands the block places the block debuffs on you exactly the same way immunity does, and Feral just offers way more flexibility at the 1, 2, and 3. So to me, the immunity set completely gone as soon as you start farming, first of all, Stone Skin, and then second of all, as soon as you start getting some Feral gear. Immunity is probably totally phased out at this point. All right, now the next set I'm going to talk about is a Savage gear. I know Savage gear, you know, obviously this was the premier ignore defense set for a long time in the game. People have lots of this, especially if you were like hardcore farming many years ago. Ignores 25% of the enemy defense as a 4-piece bonus. Now, it has a direct upgrade, which is lethal set, but that only comes around once every 3 months from the Dark Fae. So you have limited amounts of basically crafts that you can do of the lethal gear. So technically, Savage gear farming could be like infinite, right? You could get so many pieces of Savage gear, getting farmed from Fire Knight and all that. But how many of them would actually be, you know, good pieces, right? Whereas Dark Fae, you have limited crafts, but you can, you know, boost those crafts and they can be, you know, targeted to be okay, to be decent, or at least give you targeted or desired stats. So the lethal set, I think, is a direct upgrade for Savage, and it's just, you know, not too many champions on my account, to be honest, that uses Savage gear. A lot of these champions are not my main account, my main damage dealers at all. Like I have a Newt here, and you know, that's about it. I mean, there's no, like, I have Faction Wars, you know, Daithi, Karato, you know, Ragash is here. Definitely some, you know, tier B or secondary damage dealers using these sets that don't have to use up the good lethal gear. And also, if you're a spender, you can also get the Forge Pass, and Forge Pass gives you instant gear. Instant gear ignores 20% of enemy defense, so it's not as good as, you know, Savage gear. You lose 5% ignore defense, but you gain 12 speed. So if you are a spender, then you have instant gear, and then you can do instant crafts, which again give you better targeted pieces, higher quality, for example, probably equivalent to many tens of thousands of energy going into the Fire Knight to farm Savage. And then lastly, it's been power crept even further by Merciless gear. So Merciless gear on a 4-piece, you don't get the ignore defense, but on a 6-piece, you get way more ignore defense, along with all these extra stats and this really awesome ability here. So very often for your best damage dealers, you want Merciless gear and not Savage gear anymore. So, you know, Savage gear is going to be great as you're farming through, you know, progressing through the game. Once you start reaching Dark Fae, and once you start farming Dark Fae for lethal gear, you start replacing your Savage gear champions with, you know, basically lethal gear, right? And then eventually you move on to Merciless gear. But just something to look forward to, because Savage gear probably will end up staying on your account as it's still relatively good. 25% ignore defense is always going to be good. But you'll just be using it more on your secondary champions as you get better lethal and better Merciless gear. All right, guys, and the last set here I want to bring your attention to that is probably going to be power crept super hard in this game as you progress into the late and end game is the Stalwart set. So another set from the Dragon dungeon here. I don't have many of these pieces. I mainly keep a couple pieces in every set just for content creator purposes, just in case I need to test something. But basically the Stalwart set gets a straight upgrade in the Defiant set. So the Defiant set comes from a Forge Pass, and it's a 2-piece set versus the Stalwart's 4-piece set. So offers way more flexibility, and you can also put 3 different, 3 sets of these onto your champion. You get an extra 20% defense for 4 pieces. So versus the Stalwart set is just a direct upgrade. Now, to be honest, both of these sets don't see too much play. I mean, you might use Defiant set on some solo champions, perhaps. It does offer some decent damage mitigation against AoE attacks. So for example, against the most recent Corrosa event dungeon, people were using Defiant gear on their Euros, and it was mitigating quite a bit of the AoE damage, and that was very useful. So occasionally you will see some niche uses for Defiant gear, but it's a direct power creep on Stalwart. And honestly, I haven't used Stalwart since maybe year 1 for my killable clan boss team when I was still using Valkyrie. So just something to keep in mind, that in the future, Stalwart probably gets replaced by any kind of Forge pass with Defiant. These are all free-to-play Defiant pieces. You don't get as many, that's for sure. But if you buy the set, you're pretty much set for all the pieces in basically 1 month. And it's definitely a keeper, but it's obviously not heavily used right now in this meta. Anyways, folks, that's going to be it for this video. Just a quick rundown on some sets that have been power crept over in the years that I've noticed, to the point where I don't even use some of these sets anymore on any of my champions, when in the past I did use them before, and in some cases very, very frequently. But the meta has changed over the years. Obviously, if you're still progressing through the game, a lot of these pieces, it doesn't even matter what sets they are from, as long as they are high quality in terms of rarity and rank with good quality substats and main stats, then that's all you really need to make your builds work. Then any set will work for you until you find a good set with good stats for your champion. As I mentioned in this video, some of these sets will become obsolete, or at least much lesser used. For example, crit damage set, much lesser used as they get phased out by bigger and stronger sets. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys have some niche uses for some of these sets that I've said that were not that great anymore? Are you guys at the stage in this game where some of these sets are no longer used? Also, any pointers on how you guys handle your gear, that would be really awesome to hear. I'm hesitant to just full delete some of these sets because, like I said, content creator, you do require some gear just to test them out once in a while. But honestly, a lot of these gear sets are just total filler sets at this point in the game. Now, I didn't want to highlight all these sets here. Obviously, some of these sets are not very good, but they do have some niche uses. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.